Okay, this is a model 214 MS. It's basically an exhaust tube bender. It could be used for bending heavy wall pipe as well. It's just that care has to be taken not to go too big or too heavy on the wall, because it could do damage to the machine. But it's designed to bend exhaust tubing with large diameters. The machine has the capabilities up to 5 inches, but special tooling is needed, and basically you can only bend elbows. It's manually operated by this manual valve here to make the bend. It has 2 side cylinders that attach to the gate, and this gives it the counterbalance pressure during bending. And this counterbalance pressure is controlled by this sequence valve or counterbalance valve. And there you read the pressure, and this pressure you're going to read when you're making a bend. It is a counterbalance pressure. Down below here is a system pressure gauge. That's attached directly to the pump. Right there we're looking at a relief valve. Since this is a pressure compensated pump, there's 2 relief valves in the system. One is on the pump itself, and then this one here. There's special instructions on how to set the pressures on those pumps. Up here we're looking at a flow control valve. And this valve here controls the pressure when the gates are closing. In other words, when the gates close, this will make sure that they close smoothly so they don't hang up, and they come back and close until they mechanically stop. The pump is a pressure compensated pump, and it's rated at 5,000 psi. So this bender here can generate up to 80-90 tons of bending forces. Now we're looking at the back side of the machine where you do your expansion. You can make flares, flanges, expansions, you can make reductions. Mounted here is the expanding die. And here we have the collars. These are the gripper collars. They have a double taper on them so that they'll lock going forward and lock coming back. This is a patented feature of AMH. And of course here is another manual valve that controls the forming on the back end here. Walk around the machine here. Now we're looking at the starter box. Here's the motor. It's got a 15 horsepower motor. It's got a very large reservoir, so you won't have any trouble overheating. Here's the oil fill cap. This will give you a reading on the oil level. And then of course here is the other counterbalance cylinder. And here we're looking at the filter for the oil returning back to the tank. If we look down here, this is the depth of bend plate. This depth of bend plate will tell you what degree of bend you're making. This little pointer will point as you're making a bend. We're going to illustrate this here shortly. Making a bend. And the machine has a capacity, depending on the diameter, to go up to maybe 110 degrees maximum. Deeper bends can be acquired, but that would be a different setup in terms of more stroke on the cylinder, more stroke on the side cylinders. Yeah, we're going to show you how we assemble these dies, and it's very easy, very quick change tooling. You can see this little shaft coming out here. There's a hole at the top there. This shaft goes into the die, and then this pin right there is slipped into the die, and we'll show you how we do this. Now you're going to need a cherry picker. So now we can start assembling the bending die, because it's fairly heavy. He just comes and he sets it on the guide plate. You can see there's an eye bolt there, and all the dies have that. Now what he'll do is he'll kind of get it started there after he takes the chain off. Turns on the machine, he lines up the die there and just pushes it forward, drops a pin in there. Now the die is locked in place. You do this with all your dies. Now he'll get the tube. This is a 4-inch diameter tube, 14 gauge. This particular diameter we can only bend up to about 85 degrees. Now he'll make the bend, and you can see down here in the bottom, we're reading the bend as he's going around. And now he's gotten up to his degree of bend that he wants. Now we'll back off on the tube there, and we'll take a look and see what we got here. It's just a little short piece of tube that we use. This is the 4-inch bend. It's a pretty smooth bend for a 14 gauge tube at 85 degrees. There's no wrinkles anywhere. There's none on the inside either. So the bend come out very, very well. You'll have the same thing with all, this will bend 3, 3.5, and 4. And then you could bend 5 if you want, but we have to make special tooling. And that could be explained at a later time. Okay, now we come back here to the expanded end. We're going to make an expansion. He puts a tube in there, puts a collar up in the top, closes the clamp, tightens it up. Now manually he'll just come forward with it. He expands. We're not going in very deep with this because of the fact that if you go in too deep, it'll you can go deep as you want, but you have to do some other things here to be able to get it in the tube, because it will have a tendency to roll over if you go beyond it. But there's a slip fit right there. Okay. Now we're going to make a flare and a flange. We've put the flaring die on here, and the portion that you see right there is a 45-degree flare. And then if you flip the tool around, it becomes a 90-degree flange. Here, right now, like I say, it's a 45. Now he's going to take the die off and turn it around to do a 90. You just flip it over, put it back in there. Now when you compress it, you do a 90. Now he'll go ahead and turn it around, and we'll do a demonstration to make a 45-degree flare. Okay, now we're going to come in and we're going to do the flare. And you feed it in kind of slow and just jog it. A little bit more, he's just jogging it. You can see his hand moving over there. Okay, now he backs off on it, and you can see there's a 45-degree flare. Now he'll take the die, flip it over. Now you got the flat surface, and we'll show you another view here in a second. He's going to just jog it forward manually by his valve, and he's going to come forward, and he just keeps on going. Okay. Now he backs off. Now he's got a flange. So the same tool will make a flare and a flange. Any questions? If you got any questions on this machine at all, call the factory, because this machine here has the capabilities of bending 5-inch elbows. There's a special system that we'll use here with AMH, and it'll only make elbows. A machine like this, if you compare it in cost to a mandrel bender that can make elbows with thin wall tubing up to 5-6 inches, you're talking about this machine is probably about 20% of the cost of a rotary draw bender. Contact AMH for any questions. Thank you.